Everybody ready? Right, we got sound.
Ringers off, guys.
We are rolling.
Okay. Phones on stun.
Let me turn my phone off.
Yeah. Phones on silent.
You look good, Hammer.
Well, thank you.
You look healthy.
I am healthy. I'm happy as hell.
And sexy.
I'm cute, too. You left that out.
Super cute.
Beautiful wallet.
All righty.
Could you tell me your name and what you do?
Dennis Hanrahan is my name, and I'm a roustabout generally, but I'm a stage carpenter, flyman, prop man, forklift operator, and various other heavy equipment.
How long have you been a stagehand?
Well, I've been in the union for 43 years, and prior to that, I worked 2 years non-union for a rock band in this very building when it was the old Fantasy Recording Studios.
Is that right?
Well, they had left, and it was rehearsal studios, and I lived right down the block.
Wow. Full circle.
Yeah.
You're retired now, but what did your daily job duties include? What's a typical day?
Building a show, unloading trucks, setting it up. If you're on a build, if you're doing shows, set the show, maintain the carpenter stuff or the fly rail stuff. If you're on props, you maintain all those props, get it show ready, do a preset, do a show, and try to get out of there before the audience leaves so you can beat the traffic.
Have you had any injuries directly related to work?
Quite a few. Had a fractured toe, bruised ribs, pinched neck, a pinched nerve in my neck. I've had 6 surgeries, work-related. Had my right knee scoped twice. I'm on disability currently from having it replaced. I've had my right shoulder scoped. I've had bilateral vein stripping. And I'm currently taking cortisone shots on my left shoulder to avoid surgery.
And this is all from work?
Yep.
Wow. Do you have a favorite show you ever worked?
My favorite show is easy. It's hands down the Angelica tour of Hamilton when it was at the Orpheum.
Do you have a least favorite show you ever worked?
Yeah, it was this corporate show on Valentine's Day about 30 years ago. It was an 8-hour call. And 8 to 5, my wife expected me to be home to take her out. And the next thing you know, we were working to midnight, which she was really angry with. And I didn't get off work till 8 the next morning, which further infuriated her.
What's the longest call you've ever worked?
Longest call I ever worked was a gig at Bimbo's about 37, 38 years ago. It went 42 hours.
How did you deal with your irregular work schedule, with getting your sleep cycle flipped and shit like that?
I've never had a sleep cycle, and I still don't have one because of the irregular work. So I just made it work for me. I worked really hard. I was on the bounce, and then I'd take time off to go up in the mountains somewhere fishing or, to clear my head and recharge my spiritual batteries and get away from the rat race. And that's how I made it work.
Well, you sort of answered this, but how did your spouse, significant other, feel about your work?
Well, my wife, who was my junior high school sweetheart, was not very impressed, although she liked the money. And it played a major role in us getting divorced.
Do you feel adequately compensated for what you do?
I think our pay is great, and I've definitely been adequately compensated.
Have you experienced any substance or alcohol abuse related to work?
Are you kidding me? It's the entertainment industry. I was there. Sex, drugs, and opera. I was there for those days. If you weren't smoking pot, drinking, or snorting coke, you may have been suspect.
What's your background? How did you get started in stagehand work?
Well, I started with a Latin rock band from the Mission District here that rehearsed in this building. That was just by coincidence. Meanwhile, my father was a movie teamster working on the streets of San Francisco as Carl Malden's driver. And he got to meet all the local stagehands, and that's how I got in.
When you're asked by people outside of the industry what you do you think they understand what you do?
Well, I'm surprised at how many people ask, what's the stagehand? Like, what room were you born in? A dark room or what? Then you have to explain it to them, and they still don't really get it. I guess they think things just happen on their own.
you weren't a stagehand, what do you think you would do for a living?
I'd have been a Teamster. I had to transfer from the Teamsters over to Local 16. They don't have their own local anymore. They had about 12,000 members in the mid-70s when I joined. Now they're down to about 200 and don't even have their own local.
You're well known as the nicknamer of the local and one of the biggest pranksters. You want to tell me about some of the things you pulled on?
Well, my favorite practical joke I played was at the Opera House on the head prop man. I'd balance a drink glass half filled with water on a dime at 45 degrees and have it hanging over the counter, so when the boss would come in, the wind wave would knock it down, break it, and nobody's in the room. Well, after 3 days, he was convinced there was a ghost in the room doing it. The crew's favorite trick was I'd fish on our 2.5-hour dinner breaks, and I'd keep my grass shrimp that I was using for bait in the prop refrigerator. Well, the prop man, Ivan Van Peer Sr., who was a great guy, would leave about 9 o'clock, and he'd leave the Opera House, to the patients. Well, I realized one day that I could put 3 grass shrimp in the mouthpiece of his phone, and I wanted instant gratification, which I wasn't able to get until I forgot about them, and they rotted out. So I was in the prop room, and he answered the phone. He said, "Oh!" So I ran out to the payphone. I called him. Whoa! And then I'd hang up on him and run back down to the room and watch him just melt down.
Did you put a roll of gaffer tape in the microwave at the Opera House?
I did. I wanted to see how long it would take to catch fire. I was curious.
Did the stage need to be evacuated?
That was when I lit the 1/4 pound of gunpowder off in the plenum.
How long did it take for the tape to light on fire?
Well, it didn't quite catch fire because somebody in management came down. And although during the conversation we had to rotate ourselves so the microwave would be to his back, and there was like an upside down waterfall of smoke coming out. I don't know how he didn't smell it. Anyway, he left, and I picked it up. The inside was smoldering. And I couldn't get it to go out. I had it underneath the sink in the bathrooms. Finally, I just stuck it in the toilet and left.
Did you always feel safe at work?
Not at the beginning, because I mean, at the Cow Palace, you didn't wear harnesses, and you probably would have been labeled the troublemaker if you asked for one. But as the safety regulations caught up, yeah. I mean, nowadays you don't have to do something if you think it's unsafe.
How do you feel about Local 16?
We've come a long way since I started 43 years ago. We've made a lot of positive strides. And when I started, women weren't allowed. Very few minorities were allowed. Racism was definitely part of the landscape. And now we have all kinds of women, people of color.
So you're good with that. You're happy about that.
Well, that's, being a guy who's half Puerto Rican, yeah.
I think that's it.
All right, Bub.
Interview. Thank you.